This is your moment to recognize that every unseen effort had a purpose. What you thought was hidden preparation was actually building undeniable proof. God says, "You proved yourself to me, God." There comes a moment in every person's life when heaven responds, not to your words, not to your wishes, but to your consistency. This is that moment. This is the point where what you've been doing in silence begins to echo in eternity. And the message is clear. You proved yourself. You proved yourself in the days no one was watching. You proved yourself when it was inconvenient, when it was uncomfortable, when giving up felt easier than pressing forward. You proved yourself when your prayers felt unanswered but you still believed. When doors stayed closed, when people misunderstood you, when opportunities seemed delayed, you didn't quit. You stayed faithful. And that kind of faithfulness does not go unnoticed. Understand this. God is not impressed by talent alone. He responds to stewardship. What did you do with what you were given? When you had little, did you still give your best? When the platform was small, did you still show up with excellence? When nobody clapped, did you still perform your assignment with integrity? That is what qualifies you for what's next. Because proving yourself was never about impressing people. It was about aligning with purpose. It was about demonstrating that you can be trusted with more. Trust is the currency of heaven. And you've been making deposits every time you chose discipline over distraction, obedience over opinion, and purpose over comfort. Now listen carefully. The season is shifting. What was once preparation is now becoming manifestation. The same doors that were closed are about to open, not because of luck, but because of readiness. You are no longer the person who started this journey. You have grown, you have matured, you have been refined, but don't misunderstand the message. Proving yourself doesn't mean the work is over. It means the responsibility is increasing. With every new level comes a new demand. What got you here will not sustain you there. You must remain grounded, focused, and committed to the principles that built you. And here's the truth most people miss. Your obedience unlocked this moment. Not your perfection, not your strength, but your willingness to keep going when it didn't make sense. That's what moved heaven. That's what activated favor. That's what positioned you for impact. So don't shrink now. Don't doubt now. You've come too far to question what you already survived. Step into what's been prepared for you. Walk with confidence, not arrogance, but a deep awareness that you didn't arrive here by accident. You proved yourself. And now, what's coming next is not a reward. It's an assignment. Faithfulness in silence is one of the most powerful forces shaping your life, even though it often feels invisible and unrewarded. There are seasons when no one applauds you, no one acknowledges your effort, and no one seems to notice the discipline it takes just to keep going. In those moments, it's easy to feel overlooked or question whether what you're doing even matters. But silence is not absence. It is preparation. It is the space where character is built, where integrity is tested, and where true commitment is revealed. Anyone can perform when the spotlight is on, but it takes a different level of strength to remain consistent when no one is watching. That's where faithfulness is proven. When you continue to show up without recognition, you are developing something far greater than external success. You are building internal stability. You are training your mind to focus on purpose rather than praise, on obedience rather than outcome. This kind of faithfulness refines your motives. It removes the need for validation and replaces it with conviction. You begin to understand that your actions are not dependent on who sees them, but on what they mean. And that shift changes everything. It moves you from living for approval to living with intention. Silence also reveals your true priorities. When the noise fades and the attention disappears, what you choose to do next exposes what you really believe. Do you keep going or do you stop? Do you stay disciplined or do you drift? Every quiet decision becomes a declaration of who you are becoming. And over time, those small, unseen choices start to compound into something powerful. They build a foundation that cannot be shaken by opinions, circumstances, or delays. What many fail to realize is that recognition doesn't begin with people. It begins with alignment. When your actions consistently reflect your purpose, something begins to shift. Opportunities start to align, doors begin to open, and what was once hidden starts to come into the light. Not because you demanded attention, but because you earned trust. Faithfulness creates credibility, and credibility attracts responsibility. So don't underestimate the silent seasons. They are not empty, they are essential. They are shaping you into someone who can handle what you've been asking for. The recognition you seek is not lost, it is being prepared. And when it arrives, it will not just reflect what you've done, it will reveal who you've become. Stewardship is the principle that quietly determines how far your life can go. It's not about how much you have, it's about how well you manage what you've been given. Many people spend their time asking for more opportunities, more resources, more recognition, but overlook the truth that increase is always a response to responsibility. Before anything greater is released into your hands, there is always a test. What did you do with what you already had? That question carries weight because it reveals your mindset. Did you treat small things with care, or did you neglect them while waiting for something bigger? When you understand stewardship, you stop despising small beginnings. You begin to see every assignment, no matter how minor it appears, as a training ground for something greater. The way you handle limited resources reflects how you will handle abundance. If you are careless with little, you will be careless with much. But if you are intentional, disciplined, and consistent with what seems small, you are proving that you can be trusted with more. And trust is what unlocks access to the next level. Stewardship also requires a shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on what's missing, you focus on what's present. You stop making excuses and start maximizing. You give your best effort even when the return seems minimal. You show up fully even when the audience is small. That level of commitment builds something within you, an ability to remain steady regardless of external conditions. It strengthens your discipline and sharpens your focus, allowing you to grow without needing constant validation. Another critical aspect of stewardship is ownership. When you take full responsibility for what's in your care, you stop blaming circumstances, people, or timing. You understand that growth is not dependent on perfect conditions, but on consistent action. You become proactive instead of reactive. You begin to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities to refine your ability to manage pressure, uncertainty, and change. That mindset separates those who remain stagnant from those who keep advancing. What's powerful about stewardship is that it doesn't just prepare you for more, it transforms you in the process. You develop patience, resilience, and wisdom. You learn how to handle success before it arrives, so when it does, it doesn't overwhelm you. And that's the point. Increase without preparation can destroy what you've built, but stewardship ensures that when more comes, you are ready to sustain it. So instead of waiting for a bigger moment, honor the one you're in. Take care of what you have with excellence. Manage your time, your energy, or your opportunities with intention. Because the truth is simple. What you do with what you have today is what determines what you will be trusted with tomorrow. Obedience is often misunderstood because people associate it with restriction, when in reality it is the pathway to expansion. It is not about losing control of your life. It is about aligning your life with a higher level of purpose. Every new season you step into is not random. It is unlocked through decisions that require trust, even when clarity is missing. Obedience is choosing to move forward when the full picture isn't visible, when the outcome isn't guaranteed, and when your comfort is being challenged. That is what makes it powerful. It stretches you beyond your preferences and pulls you into your potential. There are moments when you will feel prompted to take a step that doesn't make logical sense. It might mean walking away from something familiar, starting something uncertain, or continuing when results are not immediate. In those moments, obedience becomes a test of your focus. Will you rely on what you see, or will you act on what you believe? Because every time you choose obedience over hesitation, you are signaling readiness for something greater. You are showing that you can be trusted not just with instructions, but with responsibility. Obedience also refines your character. It teaches discipline, patience, and humility. It forces you to let go of the need to control everything and instead develop consistency in your actions. You begin to understand that progress is not always loud or visible. Sometimes it is quiet, steady, and deeply internal. And yet, those are the moments that carry the most weight. Because what you become through obedience is more valuable than what you receive from it. Many people delay their own progress because they wait for perfect conditions. They want confirmation, comfort, and convenience before they move. But new seasons are not unlocked by convenience. They are unlocked by commitment. The door doesn't open when you feel ready. It opens when you decide to act despite uncertainty. That decision is what separates those who remain in the same place from those who keep advancing. As you continue to walk in obedience, something begins to shift. Opportunities start aligning in ways you couldn't have planned. Connections form, clarity increases, and what once felt distant begins to move closer. It's not coincidence, it's alignment. Your actions are creating a pathway for what is meant to meet you. And with every step, your confidence grows. Not because everything is easy, but because you've proven that you can move forward regardless of how it feels. So don't underestimate the power of your next decision. That one step of obedience could be the key to an entirely new season. It could be the moment that changes your direction, expands your capacity, and positions you for what's next. Stay consistent, stay committed, and trust that every act of obedience is building a bridge between where you are and where you're meant to be. Proof is often celebrated as an ending, a moment where you can finally rest and say, I made it. But in reality, proof is not a destination. It is a qualification. It is the evidence that you are ready for something greater, not the signal that the journey is over. When you prove yourself, you are not being released into comfort. You are being entrusted with assignment, and that assignment will always demand more from you than the level you just completed. Many people chase the idea of arrival because they believe success should lead to ease, but growth doesn't work that way. Every level you reach introduces a new responsibility, a new challenge, and a new expectation. The discipline that got you here must now deepen. The mindset that carried you this far must now expand, because what once felt difficult will become your baseline, and what lies ahead will stretch you in ways you didn't anticipate. Proof reveals capacity. It shows that you can handle pressure, that you can remain consistent, that you can be trusted with more than you had before. But that very proof is what activates the next assignment, and assignments are not always comfortable. They require sacrifice, focus, and a willingness to step into unfamiliar territory. You may have thought the hard part was over, but in truth, you were only being prepared for a greater level of impact. This is where many people struggle. They celebrate the proof, but resist the assignment. They want the recognition without the responsibility, the reward without the requirement. But you cannot separate the two. The same process that built you is the process that will continue to refine you. If you shrink back now, you risk losing the very progress you fought to gain. Growth is sustained not by moments of success, but by ongoing commitment. Assignment also brings purpose into sharper focus. It forces you to think beyond yourself and consider the influence you now carry. What you've been given is no longer just for you. It's meant to serve, to lead, to create impact. That shift requires maturity. It requires you to move from self-centered thinking to purpose-driven action. And that is where true fulfillment is found, not in comfort, but in contribution. So when you realize that you've proven yourself, don't load sound, step up. Accept that what comes next may demand more energy, more focus, and more discipline than before. But also understand that you have already developed the foundation to handle it. You didn't come this far to settle into ease. You came this far to expand into purpose. Proof was never meant to make your life easier. It was meant to make your life more meaningful. You've walked through the silent seasons, carried responsibility with integrity, and chosen obedience when it wasn't easy. And now you understand this truth. Your journey was never wasted. Every moment of discipline, every unseen sacrifice, and every step of faith was preparing you for something greater. You didn't just endure, you evolved. And now, the call is clear. This is not the time to slow down. This is the time to rise into your next assignment with boldness and clarity. Don't wait for another sign. You are the sign. Take what you've learned, apply it with consistency, and step fully into your purpose. Commit to excellence, stay aligned with your calling, and refuse to shrink back into comfort. The next level is not given, it's embraced. So move forward with confidence, take action today, and become everything you were prepared to be. Now step forward boldly. Your next assignment is waiting on your action. You didn't come this far to pause. You came this far to rise.